Elena had always wanted to travel by herself. She dreamed of visiting new places and meeting new people. Now that dream was finally coming true. Elena was flying to California to visit her grandmother. It would be her first journey alone. She felt excited, but also a little nervous. She packed her suitcase carefully, making sure she did not forget anything important: clothes, her favorite book, and a small notebook she called her travel diary were all packed inside. She smiled to herself. This trip would be full of new adventures. At the airport, everything felt big and fast. People rushed around, talking, carrying bags, checking flight information. Elena clutched her travel diary tightly. She wanted to remember this moment forever. After checking her luggage and passing through security, she sat at the gate and took out her notebook. She wrote, "First solo trip. Feeling a little scared, but very excited." When it was time to board the plane, Elena found her seat next to the window. She watched the workers loading bags onto the plane and the other passengers finding their seats. When the plane took off, Elena looked out at the sky. The city became smaller and smaller until it disappeared under the clouds. She took a deep breath. She was on her way. The flight was long, but Elena didn't mind. She read her book, listened to music, and sometimes just stared out of the window, thinking about all the things she wanted to do in California. She promised herself she would try to speak English as much as possible, meet new people, and write down everything interesting in her travel diary. When the plane finally landed, Elena felt a wave of happiness. She had made it to California. The airport was bright and busy. Outside, the sky was clear and blue. Palm trees lined the streets, and there was a fresh, sweet smell in the air. Elena found a taxi outside the airport. The driver was a friendly man who smiled warmly at her. "First day time in California?" he asked. "Yes," Elena replied with a big smile. "You're going to love it. Enjoy your stay," the driver said as he helped her with her suitcase. Elena sat quietly in the taxi, looking out the window. Everything looked so different from her hometown. She saw colorful shops, busy streets, and people walking their dogs. She opened her travel diary again and wrote, "Friendly people, sunny skies. I feel so alive." Soon, they arrived at her hotel. Elena stepped out of the taxi, thanked the driver, and pulled her suitcase behind her. The hotel looked beautiful, with large glass doors and flowers planted all around the entrance. Inside, the lobby was bright and welcoming. There were soft chairs, shining floors, and a sweet smell of flowers in the air. At the front desk, Elena checked in. The receptionist gave her a warm smile and handed her a small key card. "Room 412. Enjoy your stay," the woman said. Elena thanked her, picked up her suitcase, and headed toward the elevator. She felt a little tired, but very proud. She had traveled all this way by herself, and everything had gone well so far. As she waited for the elevator, she thought about what she wanted to do during her trip. She would visit her grandmother, of course, but she also wanted to practice her English. She decided to make a new plan. Every day, she would write down at least 5 new English words or phrases she heard. She would call it her travel word challenge. It would be a fun way to remember her trip and improve her English at the same time. When the elevator doors opened, Elena stepped inside and pressed the button for the fourth floor. She smiled to herself. This was the beginning of something new. She was not just visiting California, she was starting to build her own life, her own memories, and her own courage. When she reached her floor, she walked down the hallway and found her room. She opened the door and stepped inside. It was a nice room with a big bed, must be cheap, small desk, and a window that looked out over the city. She dropped her suitcase on the bed and sat down for a moment just to breathe and take everything in. Elena was tired from her long trip, but she felt proud and happy. She knew there would be many challenges ahead. Traveling alone was not always easy. But she was ready. She was strong. And she was excited to see what adventures waited for her next. Before going to bed, Elena remembered she needed to find the restroom. She grabbed her room key and walked back toward the lobby. Following the signs, she headed down a hallway where she saw two doors. One said men, and the other said women. She smiled. She was careful to look at the signs this time. Everything was going just fine. At that moment, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her grandmother. Hi, sweetie. You at the hotel? Call me when you can. Love you. Elena smiled warmly. She felt happy and loved. Without thinking much, still focused on the sweet message, she opened one of the doors. She had no idea that her first real adventure was just about to begin. Elena opened the door, still smiling at her grandmother's sweet message. She stepped inside the room, not paying much attention. The room was very quiet. It felt a little strange. She looked around. There were sinks, mirrors, and hand dryers on the wall. Everything seemed normal, but something felt different. She took a step forward, still thinking about her grandmother. Suddenly, she heard a deep voice, a man-in voice. "Excuse me, miss," the voice said. Elena froze. She slowly turned around. A man was standing near the sink, looking surprised. For a moment, they just stared at each other. Elena's heart started to beat very fast. Then she looked around again and saw a sign on the wall. It said, "Men's Restroom." Panic hit her like a wave. Her face turned red. Her hands became cold. Without thinking, she mumbled, "I'm sorry," and rushed to the door. She pushed it open so quickly that she almost ran into someone. It was the hotel receptionist. The woman looked surprised but smiled kindly. "Are you okay?" she asked. Elena nodded too fast. "Yes, everything is fine. Thank you," she said quickly, trying to sound calm, but her voice was shaking. The receptionist smiled again and said, "Enjoy your stay." Elena hurried away from the restroom, her heart still beating very fast. She could not believe what had just happened. She thought, "Okay, Elena, this time check the signs, check them very carefully." She stood in front of the two doors again. She looked at the signs once, twice, and even a third time. Finally, sure she was right, she opened the door marked "Women." This time, she was in the right place. She washed her hands and looked at herself in the mirror. Her face was still red. She smiled a little and whispered to herself, "That was so embarrassing." Trying to feel better, she reminded herself that maybe no one else had noticed. she could forget about it soon. But when she stepped out of the restroom, she saw him. The man from the men's restroom was standing in the hallway. He saw her too. He smiled kindly. Elena's heart raced again. She wanted to disappear. She wanted the floor to open and swallow her. She felt so embarrassed. The man walked toward her and said, "Hey, don't worry. It happens all the time." Elena gave a nervous laugh. "Yeah, thanks," she said softly. The man smiled again. Then he looked down and said, I think your backpack is open." Elena quickly looked down and gasped. Her backpack was unzipped. Her wallet, phone, and hotel room key were all near the top, ready to fall out. She quickly zipped it up. "Oh, wow. Thank you so much," she said, her face still red. "No problem. Have a good day," the man said warmly. "You too," Elena replied quickly, and then she hurried away, wanting to hide. As she walked toward the elevator, she thought about everything that had just happened. 2 mistakes in a few minutes. Going into the wrong restroom and almost losing her important things. She realized she had not been paying enough attention. She had been too distracted by her phone and by her feelings. Elena decided she needed to be more careful. She came up with a new idea for herself. She would call it the sign check game. Every time she saw a sign, she would stop, read it carefully, and even say it out loud. This would help her slow down and avoid making silly mistakes. She smiled to herself. Maybe mistakes were not all bad. They could teach important lessons. Even the most embarrassing moments could help her become smarter and stronger. As Elena reached the elevator and pressed the button, she promised herself that she would slow down, observe more, and be proud of every small step she took. This trip was about learning, not just about seeing new places. The elevator doors opened and she stepped inside. She felt a little embarrassed, but she also felt a little stronger. Every mistake was a chance to grow. She was ready to keep moving forward, one careful step at a time. Elena stood inside the elevator, feeling a little more relaxed after her embarrassing moments. She was alone now, and she just wanted to reach her room and rest. The elevator doors began to close, and she let out a small sigh of relief. Finally, some peace. But then, just before the doors closed completely, a hand reached in and stopped them. The doors opened again, and Elena's heart dropped. It was him, the same man from the men's restroom. He stepped inside, holding a cup of coffee and looking very calm, as if nothing strange had happened at all. Elena looked straight ahead, trying not to make eye contact. She felt her face getting warm again. Why did this have to happen? Of all the people in the hotel, why him? The elevator started moving. The silence between them was heavy and awkward. Elena could hear her own heart beating. She held her suitcase tightly and stared at the floor numbers lighting up one by one. Then the man pressed a button. It was for the 4th floor. Elena glanced at her room key. Her room was also on the 4th floor. She almost laughed at how unlucky she was. Of course, they were going to the same floor. When the elevator reached the 4th floor, the doors opened. Elena moved quickly, stepping out first. She wanted to escape the awkwardness as fast as possible. "Okay, bye. Have a great night, she said quickly over her shoulder. The man smiled and said, You too. Elena hurried down the hallway, found her room, and quickly opened the door. Once inside, she leaned against the door and let out a big sigh. She had never felt so embarrassed in her life. But she was also proud. She had survived. She had kept moving forward even when she wanted to hide. She dropped her suitcase on the floor, kicked off her shoes, and sat down on the bed. The room was quiet and cozy. Through the found window, she could see the city lights twinkling in the distance. She smiled to herself. It had been a strange and funny day, but it was her first day of adventure alone, and she would never forget it. Later that night, Elena picked up her phone and called her grandmother. Hi, sweetie, her grandmother said with a warm voice. How was your first day? Elena laughed. Grandma, you won't believe what happened to me today, she said. She told her grandmother everything about the restroom mistake, the open backpack, the awkward elevator ride. Her grandmother listened carefully. Then she started to laugh. She laughed so hard that Elena had to wait before she could continue. Oh, Elena, her grandmother said between laughs, you need to slow down and pay more attention. Elena laughed too. Her grandmother was right. She had been rushing too much. She had been so excited and distracted that she did not check the signs carefully. She had also forgotten to zip her backpack properly. That night, as Elena got ready for bed, she thought about what she had learned. She realized two important lessons. First, always slow down and look carefully before making a decision. Second, do not let small mistakes ruin your day. Mistakes can be funny. They can be part of a good story. Most of all, mistakes help you grow. Elena decided to create a new habit for herself. She called it the Slow Down Challenge. Every day during her trip, she would take 5 minutes to stop, breathe, and look around carefully. She would notice the signs, the people, the little details. She would not rush. She would move slowly and with care. She wrote about her new idea in her travel diary. Today, I learned that moving slowly is not a weakness. It is a strength. Paying attention makes life safer, richer, and even more beautiful. As she lay in bed, Elena felt peaceful. She was proud of herself, even after the embarrassing moments. She had faced her fears, smiled through mistakes, and found a way to learn from them. She knew there would be more adventures ahead, and probably more funny mistakes, too. But she also knew she could handle them. She would laugh, learn, and keep moving forward. Tomorrow was a new day, a new chance to practice English, meet people, and grow stronger. Elena closed her eyes with a smile on her face, ready for whatever the next adventure would bring. Elena's story teaches us something very important. She started her first journey alone, full of excitement and hope. Along the way, she made small mistakes. She entered the wrong restroom. She almost lost her things because she forgot to zip her backpack. She had some very awkward moments. But even when she felt embarrassed, Elena did not give up. She stayed strong, kept smiling, and learned valuable lessons. Traveling alone helped Elena become more careful and more confident. She learned that it is okay to make mistakes. Mistakes are not the end. They are part of the journey. Every mistake can teach you something new. Elena learned to slow down, to check carefully before acting, and to not rush through life. She also learned that laughing at herself could turn a bad moment into a good memory. In your own life, you can use Elena's lessons. When you practice English, you will make mistakes. You might say the wrong word. You might not understand someone right away, but that is okay. Mistakes are your teachers. They help you grow. Every time you make a mistake, you learn something important. So do not feel shy. Speak loudly. Try bravely. Smile at your mistakes and move forward, just like Elena did. Congratulations on listening to and understanding this story today. You have improved your English listening and comprehension skills. You are taking real steps to becoming a more confident English speaker. Be proud of yourself. Every small step is a big success. Now, here is a small question for you. Please answer it in the comments. What important habit did Elena create to help herself slow down and be more careful? A. The sign check game. B. The fast talk challenge. Please type A or B in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us have the energy to make more fun and useful English stories for you. If you would like to help even more, you can also donate to our channel. In the beginning, it is very hard to make high-quality content. We are working hard for free to help you learn English. Every little donation helps us continue this work and create even better stories for you. Thank you so much for learning with us today. We can't wait to see you in the next story.